it's Miss Tomorrow again, here with another Independent Station for you. This is a really short week this week, and we're only in school for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So today is Wednesday, and normally on Wednesdays we go through our vocabulary words, but since this is such a short week, we don't have any new ones to go over. So I just want to take a quick second, since we just had a really long 4-day weekend, to go over some rules for our Independent Station. So the first thing is, if you're here on this video, you probably did an amazing job of going to my schedule, clicking on the link there, and checking out this video. So awesome job. Remember, every day we want to make sure that transition is so fast and so smooth, where as soon as it's time for our small group time and for our guided ELA time, you head on over to my schedule, you open up this video, and you have it ready to go, okay? The other thing is, remember that we're staying on mute, so we should not be unmuting and talking to our friends. This is our time to make our brains smarter, because that's our job when we're at school. The next thing I want to talk about is the expectation that we have for you sitting in front of your computer screen. You should be sitting in front of your screen the whole time during this station, not walking away. If you walk away, you might miss some really important opportunities to learn something new, or to hear an interesting fact, or maybe you might miss a really important chunk of our story. So it's really important that you are making sure that when you're in this Independent Station, you are sitting on your tush, eyes on me, because I'm the speaker, and I want you really thinking about what we're reading. So I don't want you just watching the video and being like, oh, I have to be here, so I'm gonna be here and I'm gonna watch it. But instead, I want you to be thinking, what's gonna happen next in the story? What does this mean? What does this tell me about the character? Why did the author decide to write this in their story? Those are some great things to be asking yourself while you're reading, because remember, good readers don't just read the words or listen to the words, they also think about what's happening, how it relates to them, how certain characters interact, and lots of different components. So we're gonna hop back into our story. We're still reading The Chocolate Touch, and this is by Patrick Skeeny Cathing. So The Chocolate Touch is a fiction story. It's actually a fantasy story, and we're about to hop into chapter 4, but I want to do a quick recap and just remind you, because it's been so long. The last part of the story that we read, John had woken up and he ate an entire tube of toothpaste because he said it tasted like chocolate and it turned to chocolate in his mouth. His orange juice changed to chocolate in his mouth. His breakfast changed to chocolate in his mouth. Pretty much anything he put inside of his mouth turned to chocolate. And the very last thing we read was that he was about to go to school, and his mom was like, John, I'm so proud of you this morning for eating all this healthy food. You had your orange juice, you had your eggs, your toast, basically all of that healthy food. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a coin so that you can buy some chocolate while you're at school. And John was like, no thanks, I don't think I'll be needing it. And we know as the reader, even though the author didn't write it, we know that John felt like he didn't need that coin because he had a funny feeling that when he went to school it would continue, that anything he put in his mouth would turn into chocolate. All right, so we're going to start with chapter 4 here, and I'm going to show you the picture. So take a look at that. That's a little bit peculiar. Looks like a set of gloves, and it looks like maybe there's some bite marks in them. Wonder why that is. John had the bad habit of chewing things when he was thinking hard. This morning, he had several things to think about. What had made the toothpaste taste like chocolate? What had made the orange juice taste like chocolate? What had made the bacon and eggs taste like chocolate? What had made the toast and butter and marmalade taste like chocolate? Each one of these things had felt the way it had always felt before. The toothpaste had been soft and pasty. The bacon had been hot, crisp, and oily. The toast had been crunchy, and the marmalade sticky and lumpy. But everything had tasted like the chocolate he had eaten in bed last night. John put a gloved thumb in his mouth and thoughtfully chewed. His mother had frequently pointed out to him that chewing his gloves made little holes that let in the cold air, but he chewed on them just the same when he was thinking hard. This time, he noticed something very queer about the thumb of his glove. Instead of tasting leathery, it tasted like chocolate. John pulled his thumb out of his mouth. The The part of the glove that had been in his mouth was now brown instead of black like the rest. He bit the end of the leather thumb again. It came right off in his mouth, leaving his own thumb bare. John chewed, and it was like chewing leather made of chocolate, leather that melted like chocolate. In a second or two, he swallowed it. The gloves were not new. John had had them quite a while. He couldn't understand why he had never thought of eating them before. He tried to tear off one of the fingers, but the leather was too strong for him. He put it in his mouth, and it immediately turned into chocolate. Then he was able to break it off easily. He popped into his mouth and chewed it up and swallowed it. It was delicious. Walking along, devouring his glove, or eating his glove kind of crazily, he did not notice one of his schoolfellows, Spider Wilson, until he heard his voice. "John's gone crazy! John's gone crazy!" Spider yelled. Then he turned on John. "Don't they feed you where you live?" he sneered. Spider was in the grade just above John's and was one of the meanest and slyest boys in the whole school. John gulped down a large piece of the second glove's palm and looked pleased. "What's the matter?" Spider demanded. "Do your people make you eat leather?" "This is special leather," John replied. He licked his lips and sighed contentedly. "It turns into chocolate as soon as you put it in your mouth. Look!" John bit off the glove's little finger and took it out of his mouth. "Now it's chocolate." He put it back in his mouth and gulped it down. "Hey, give me a piece," Spider said. Here's an illustration in here. So we can see the big bully named Spider. We can see John down here. Take a look at how they're feeling in this part of the story. So it looks like John might be a little bit upset that he was seen eating his glove. And Spider kind of looks like, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to make fun of you. I might tease you a little bit. So let's keep going a little bit further. "Why should I?" John wanted to know more. "They're my gloves." "Hand over a piece," Spider said. "Do I eat your gloves?" John asked reasonably, his mouth full of chocolate. "Why should you eat mine?" "Those aren't real gloves," Spider said. "Whenever one person has candy, he has to share it with the others. That's the club rule." "What club?" John asked. "Never mind what club," Spider said, "but you'd better let me have some of that chocolate." Without waiting longer, Spider snatched what was left of the second glove. John was too surprised to resist, and he didn't want to anyhow. He had a feeling that he had enough chocolate for a while. He was getting a bit thirsty. Spider ran only a little way ahead. When he saw that John wasn't going to fight to get the glove back, he started to eat his prize. He stuffed the leather into his mouth and took a big bite. Spider stopped short in his tracks. He frowned and bit deep into the leather again. Disgusting! It tasted worse than just leather. It tasted like leather with which a boy had made mud pies and snowballs and patted old dogs. Ugh, that sounds pretty gross. John thought perhaps he might be getting late for school, so he started running. He left Spider Wilson spitting the soggy remains of the glove into the gutter. Still giggling to himself about the defeat of the enemy, John walked between the great stone pillars at the entrance to the school grounds. He had gone no more than halfway to the main building when he heard Susan Buttercup calling him. She was standing near the jungle gym and with some of her friends. "I've got something to show you, John," she shouted. So I'm going to stop there for a second, and I'm going to remind you, because we actually haven't heard about Susan in a while, and Susan is his friend who he used to go to her house every day, but he hasn't been going lately. And if you remember, the last time he was on his way to her house was when he decided to go the other way and he went to the candy store instead, and that's what basically started this whole snowball effect. So John went to the candy store, and because he kind of felt like going a different way instead of taking his normal path, And when he got to the candy store, he decided to trade in the cool coin he found for a piece of chocolate, but he didn't know it was just a piece of chocolate at the time. Remember, he thought it was the big old box and he was being kind of stingy. So then he got home, he ate the chocolate, and now everything is tasting like chocolate in his mouth, which is so strange. Remember, this is a fantasy story because some things in it could never happen in real life. So, my question for you today on our Google form is about the genre. So we know the genre is fantasy, and we know that fantasy means something happens in the story that could never happen in real life. So what I want you to do is either in the description below or on my schedule, you're going to click there and you're going to answer this question. What has happened in the story so far that makes it fantasy? So remember, fantasy means that something's happening that could not happen in real life. Like it could never happen. So I'm going to ask you again, what has happened in the story so far that makes this book fantasy? All right, friends, make sure when you're responding to it, you're giving all your best work. So I don't want just like 1 or 2 words. I want at least 1 full sentence with punctuation. If you can give me a little more oomph and add a little more detail, that'd be even better. And then there will be that same question at the bottom always where you can tell me other things about the book that you noticed. So maybe you have some questions about the book, or you noticed something really cool. Maybe you have a connection to the book, or you want to make a prediction about what's going to happen next. That can always go in the very last part of the book survey where I ask if you have anything else you'd like to share. But go ahead and do your best work. See you soon.